Welcome back to the shop again this week, you guys. We are going to get started on our next build, which is going to be a bamboo back and belly build again, similar to the build that we just finished, which was a Scythian style bow, but this bow is going to be more along the lines of an Assyrian style bow. So where the Scythian bow was set back at the grip, the Assyrian bow is going to be more like a little bit of a deflex through the grip, and where we've got the build up of the grip on the belly side, the Assyrian bow is going to have it on the back side. Otherwise, very similar construction processes that we're going to use on this build. And instead of extreme recurves with reinforcements through here, we're going to have a less extreme recurve, but a much more extreme siyah. And that is going to help us get my hope is to get a very long draw out of a very short bow. So this bow is going to be 60 inches from tip to, take that back, 60 inches from nock to nock, so a 62-inch tip to tip bow. And I'm hoping to get 28 plus inches out of it, and we will see where this project takes us. But that is the plan. We're going to just get started, and here we go with all the materials and needs that it's going to take to build this bow. Started this build by making some patterns out of masonite here. One would be the siyah pattern that I'm going to be using, and then of course the riser section. What I'm using to do that is ash. I believe ash is actually what is traditionally used for these portions of these bows. So I'm laminating up two 2/4-inch pieces or 3/4-inch pieces, so I get an 1.5 inch width here, and then I will cut my patterns out of that. That helps me ensure that I have everything lined up on the same plane, right? So it's 1.5 inch wide at the grip. It'll be 1.5 inch wide out at the tips. When I glue everything together, everything will be on the same plane, so that there's no mystery, hopefully, in terms of alignment when everything's said and done. So this is how that block got chopped up or sliced up, I suppose. Here is the riser section. Got one siyah right here. I'll sit down here. And the second siyah right here. Sit down here. So there are the siyahs and riser. All right, guys, so here are the riser piece and siyahs. They've been ground down, sanded smooth, and ready to go. I have the bamboo pieces that I'm going to be using here. And in a previous video, or a comment on one of my previous videos, somebody had dropped down in the comments that they wanted to see more of how it is that I processed my bamboo. I think I'm going to spend a little bit of time specifically talking about how I'm choosing the bamboo that I'm using, and then we can talk a little bit more about the actual processing. You'll notice that the slats that I have this sort of, well, the description from the not manufacturer, but from the provider, they call this a tortoise shell finish. It's decorative. It means absolutely nothing to me in what I'm doing, and of course once we start taking the rind off of these pieces of bamboo, it's just going to be the same color as every other piece of bamboo I've ever dealt with, just that real golden yellow color until we temper it. But what I'm looking for in my bamboo, all right, so this bow is going to be, I'm going to make it probably 62 inches in length. And so it's important to me that from the 31-inch mark at the center, and I want my center to be in between the nodes. So this is going to run differently than a backing strip. I want to find nodes that are just almost in coincidence with my riser piece. So my riser is going to extend beyond those nodes by about 1 inch on either side. All right, so my riser's just over 13 inches. The space on these, I don't know if you can see that. The spacing between these nodes is just over 10 inches. All right. Center being in between the nodes. So I need at least 64 or 62 clean inches on either side of center here. So at the 31-inch mark, I can get out to my length on both sides. All right. I try to choose pieces that are going to be similar in coincidence with their with those nodes, so that my nodes are even on the belly and on the back, with the main working piece being right past the grip, of course. So that's how I choose my pieces. Now obviously one's going to be back and one's going to be belly. I have a thicker piece here that has not got as much concave on the underside that can be milled out to a thicker piece, so that's going to be my belly. And another one that's got a little more concave to it that's going to be a little thin. This one is going to be my back. One very important aspect that needs to be tended to when you are laying this out. Now it's easy or very easy when your nodes are in coincidence the way they are, or the way we want them to be. They don't have to be, but this is optimal as far as I'm concerned. Is when you go to put this together, that the growth direction on these two pieces of bamboo run counter to one another. All right, so if you take a profile look at a piece of bamboo, so this one, its growth direction is this way. So right at the node, there's a bulge in the length of bamboo between the two nodes, but the bulge resides right here, just to the upper side of the growth direction of that node, and then narrows out until it hits the next node, and then gives another bulge right here. So what we have is like bulge and thinning, bulge and thinning. And what you want to do is orient those bulges against one another. So on the belly side then, or on the backing side, we have that bulge residing on this end as we go down the way. So what we'll have is where the thickest piece of bamboo is occurring here, the thickest piece will be occurring on the underside, or the opposing side on the other end of this length between nodes. All right, guys, we've kind of talked about our layout on the bamboo and how we want our center. It's kind of tough to see that line, but there is a line right across the center of this piece, which is in between the nodes, right? And I have one finished piece lined up next to one that is not yet finished. So this is kind of the process we go through, right? We got the shape of our limbs, or shape of our bow, drawn out onto the bamboo. We'll take that to the bandsaw and then just cut it to shape. So there's the profile on the left-hand side there, or on the bottom side, I guess, by the way we're looking at it here. And from there, we want to thin it as well. Now, how you go about thinning it is really kind of up to you and the tools that you have, all right? If you have grinding tools like a belt sander, this is what I use. 36 grip paper on there to really be aggressive sanding. I've also got a 36 grip belt on my edge sander here to kind of do a 1-2 punch, if that's what you want to call it, to grind down my pieces. I will actually go to the degree of ripping this on my bandsaw. All right, just straight up ripping it this way. And once I thin it down, then I go to work with the sanders and grinders and whatnot to get it to a nice flat, I don't know if you can see it here. I'll try and bend it. Flat surface. Okay. And we do that with those tools. So now if you're using, let's say, hand tools, or if you're not confident using a bandsaw to just straight up rip this into a thinner piece, then the idea here would be to work it in sections, kind of like I talk about when we're tillering a bow. All right, I'm gonna set this down for a second. And what we would do is take off material on an edge here like this, like remove wood here and remove wood here, so we get down close to the edges and it leaves it proud right through here, and then take this down. And that's the most controlled way that you can go about removing this wood, is to take off the corners. It's a faceted approach, just like I do with my bellies, with belly wood on back and belly bow. Take it down at an angle and then work down that center until you're flat across the length here. All right, so that's what we want. To give you an idea of where we're at, this is my backing strip, and I have taken it down to about a 0.1, well, 0.2, 0.19. So really it's about a 0.2, just under a 1/4 of an inch. Or take the, yeah, on the crown. 0.25 would be 1/4 of an inch. So we're down there. We're down there and just a little more, probably more like a 3/16 to 1/2 or 1/8 right here. Those are the dimensions we want to hit. Now obviously my backing piece is going to be a little bit thinner. This is going to be the belly. My belly I'll take down to probably 0.1, well, 0.2 to 0.25. We're going to temper only the belly side, and then we're going to have to reduce it again, because when we temper it, it actually like narrows the edges and gives a lenticular shape to it that we have to grind flat again. So after we've tempered it, it's going to land down there in the 0.22, 0.21, even 0.20, but it'll be tempered and far more compression resistant than a raw bamboo slat would be. It cannot be emphasized enough just how vitally important it is that when we're reducing our bamboo, that we are reducing it into a perfectly tillered shape. All right, so we're going to get that measurement we need at the grip area or riser area, and then reduce such that we get even bend along its entire length. And this is the foundation right here. This is the foundation of a well-tillered final product. All right, guys, I just got finished cutting this number 1 to shape, to profile shape. And then I went and ran it through, you can see the blade chatter here, for ripping it through my bandsaw. And I have encountered just exactly what you might be concerned about when you go, you know, no holds barred and just get after it and grind it. Can you see that spot right there? Just look at how my edge goes knife thin and then back out thick again for the rest of the limb. And it happened right at a node, which is right at the grip. And now that is the widest, more like the thickest that this entire piece can be. And a quick caliper reading on this thickness has me at a 0.19 with tooth chatter on it. So I'm gonna have to grind it down even thinner than that. And there's a moral here, or a lesson to be learned, and that is that yeah, you want to do things in such a manner that you ensure that you don't have this sort of problem arise. And this is just a function of having made so many of these types of bows and never having done, or yeah, I'm gonna say not, I've only ever done this once before, to a fatal point. I don't think I'm at a fatal point here. This is just gonna be a pain in the butt to have to deal with. So everything grinds down to that thickness right there. Had I done the faceted approach along the lines of what I had talked about, where we sand down the edge, and then come back and take out the center, this would not have happened. All right, here are all of the components of this bow build. It's a very simple and straightforward build, not to be confused with easy. We have our belly strip, backing strip, our riser, and our 2 siyahs. A little word to the wise, or a little hindsight piece here. When you are fashioning out your bamboo slats, you know, your belly and your backing strip, I would strongly advise that you fashion the belly strip first and then your backing. I had started in this instance with my backing strip, moved on to the belly strip, and I cut it thin when I was reducing it on the bandsaw, and here's the end result. If you can see it, can still kind of make out the chatter of the blade right here. I'm hoping that that's going to be a superficial issue. It is going to be hidden within the length of the riser in the end result. So hopefully that doesn't have any kind of negative effect on the final build. But what has happened here is the thickness of my belly, which should be thicker than the back, ended up the same thickness. And so now I gotta go back on my backing strip and try to thin it out some more so that it is a thinner strip than the belly. I have yet to temper this belly piece, so we're gonna have to thin it out even more, which then exacerbates the situation with the backing strip. So losing weight in all of that, you guys, losing draw weight. So hopefully, since this is a shorter bow, it'll still end up in that 35 to 40 pounds at 28 inches range. That's the mark I'm going in. And secondary to that, I am hoping that not only to get in that weight class at a 28-inch draw, but to also achieve a longer draw length out of this particular bow. So not only are we shortening the entire length of it compared to previous builds, but also trying to extend that draw length out. So those are the challenges ahead of us with this at this point. I will put a link in the description and put a card here in the video to cover how I go about tempering my belly pieces. But we need to temper this belly, and then we will move on to gluing this whole works up, and that is going to be the subject of next week's video. So guys, thank you for hanging out this week, and next week we'll get this guy assembled.